Trick, darling, have you ever been to a Turkish bath? Well, don't. Of course if you're reducing, but not unless you're simply mountainous. Because recently, darling, I've had the fraction of a worry about my little figure. My dear, nothing sensational. I'm still the world's sylph, really. But there's just a tedious ripple when I bend. And nowadays, if a girl can't jump through a garter, she's gross. Well, somebody once told me this Turkish performance was the quickest thing ever. Well, my dear, they take away all your clothes and give you the most mortifying garment in thick white linen. My dear, like an abbreviated shroud. Well, the first place you go into is called the tepidarium or something. Not very hot, but quite hot enough. A sort of purgatory, my dear, where you prepare for the bath to come, so to speak. Well, I crept in, my dear, feeling like a dog that's done the wrong thing. And, of course, the sole soul in the place was the most redundant woman I know, the widow Wachtley. My dear, you know, I can't bear to say an unkind thing, but really, my dear, she is quite definitely unmagnetic. Well, she was all over me at once. But, my dear, the confidences. Trick, darling, you know I'm not prudish, don't you? But I do think there ought to be some sort of reticence in the tepidarium, don't you? Well, after a bit, something told me I should be quite ill very soon. So I got up in the middle of a sentence and merely fled into one of the hot rooms. Well, you go through a heavy curtain, and the most awful blast of heat strikes you in the face. My dear, too detonating. I just crumpled up and sat down, and my dear, the seat was red hot. If you could have seen me leap to the roof. So I tottered about like a cat on hot bricks, and my dear, suddenly I realized this room was full of bodies, and my dear, the most undecorative bodies, all pink and shiny with their eyes closed. Well, if you can imagine a lot of enormous dead lobsters with white nighties and very fat arms. Well, then I took a peep into the second hot room. But, my dear, too squalid, and the heat was blistering. So I went back to the first room. And, my dear, imagine my horror. There was the Wachtley body laid out with the others. I recognized it at once. Well, she opened one eye at me, and I was terrified she'd plunge into her romances again. So I escaped back into the tepidarium and read the directions. Well, it said you pour tepid water over the head and await the free outburst of perspiration. My dear, you should have seen your poor little Topsy, sitting all by herself in a fat child's nightie, dripping tepid water, and waiting for the free outburst and everything. But, my dear, simply nothing took place, and I was petrified, because I thought perhaps I was abnormal or cold-blooded or something degrading. Well, at last the Wachtley came out, looking yards thinner already. My dear, she'd practically disappeared, but not quite, unfortunately. Well, she said, have you sweated, dear? And that will show you what I mean about a Turkish bath. Because, my dear Trix, any place where a woman like the Wachtley can come up to a girl and ask her in cold blood if she's sweated, well, there must be a defect in the whole institution. Well, I said, no, I hadn't sweated, but I was doing what a girl could. And she said, you're in the wrong room. If you don't sweat, you have pneumonia. So I said, I'd rather have peritonitis than go back into that insanitary oven with the bodies in it. And she said, come and try the Russian steam bath. So she took me to the most antagonizing cell and let off masses of Russian steam. My dear, too alarming. But there was a capital free outburst and everything, and I rushed out just before I was asphyxiated. But before I could get to my clothes, I was caught by an Amazon of a woman and laid flat on a marble slab. My dear, like a salmon or a side of ham. And my dear, she scrubbed me and scraped me and pummeled me and slapped me. My dear, too humbling. And then she stood me up and turned the hugest hold on me. Well, of course, your poor, ill-treated Topsy fell flat on her face. Well, as if that wasn't enough, she led me to the most barbarous cold plunge and said, jump, madam. Well, my dear, only one thing created could make me jump into cold water after all I'd been through. And at that moment, I heard behind me the leprous voice of the Wachtley woman, and I dove into the frozen depths and stayed underwater till she'd gone away. Well, after all this, I lost 4 pounds. But, my dear, I've had such an appetite ever since I put on 6. So it's rather fallacious in the reducing line. Perhaps it'll have to be the orange juice after all. Oh, dear.